today, I think one of the challenges we have as credit unions is that the bigger we get, the further we get from the why and from the purpose. And so this is a great way for credit unions and community banks, whoever out there. This is such a huge problem that we have in this country. The loyalty that comes out of helping somebody in a situation like this and giving them that start when nobody else will is lifelong. We've seen it. And what comes out of loyalty? Liquidity. That's what comes out of loyalty. If you can help somebody today, not only are they never going to leave you, they're going to bank with you for their whole life.
On this episode, we talk with Jonathan J.T. Taylor, CEO of the CUSO CU Soul. JT shares with us the unlikely partnership crossing 14 time zones that created the organization. We also learn the history and problem-solving approach that led to their flagship offering, which enables credit unions to uniquely serve survivors of domestic violence. This is a case study that demonstrates the vast, untapped opportunity for innovation in the community FI space. JT, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
So you have an interesting background and have done some very different things. I think that's probably a good place to start before we get into like the trends and aspects. Will you just tell us a little bit about kind of what brought you to your current position and kind of some of the other things you do from an industry perspective?
Sure. Well, I've always been, I guess you'd call a creative, graduated with a media studies production degree. I've been a musician and have always kind of been in the arts and fell into the credit union movement, as so many of us do, and started at America's first CUSO, actually, which was called the Maine Credit Union League Insurance Trust, and was founded back in the early '60s. And no, I was not there at the time, but started there, did member and lending products, really cut my teeth in the credit union space, working with credit union owners who were also my clients. Loved it. Learned a lot about different protection products. And from there, started kind of my entrepreneurial juices flowing, especially when I saw where credit unions were not being treated as equals to other industries like the auto industry when it came to protection products. And also, I was the guy whose phone would ring every time there was a problem with any of these products. And so I learned through the School of Hard Knocks what needed to be tweaked, what could be better, right? And what really wasn't in the best interest of membership. And so my organization and two other CUSOs created CU Certified, which was the first CUSO created vehicle service contract that told the truth, gave back all the extra money that was in the coffers after claims were paid and risk had expired, and took that out to 18 states and knew that I wasn't home enough because Delta was treating me very well right before the beginning of the pandemic, and switched gears and moved to architecture CUSO and dove into the world of data lake, and shout out to those guys, and really just learned a tremendous amount. Of course, that was a challenging time for everybody during COVID. And then I got a call one day for this CUSO that I had been calling on because they had this CECL compliance piece there, and was trying to partner up with them. And the CEO at the time of CU Soul, Steve Belargent, said, "Hey, how's that data crap going?" And I said, "Could be better. COVID sucks. It's a long sales cycle right now, but believe in it. And, I think it can really help save credit unions and yada, yada." And he said, "Well, would you be interested in something else?" And I thought he meant EVP or something like that, working with him. And I said, "Sure." I guess Steve had served on my board at the Maine Credit Union League Insurance Trust. He was the CEO of Penobscot County Federal Credit Union. And, this, as the saying goes, just be good to people. You never know what's going to happen. And he said, "Hey, I'm retiring again, and I'm looking for somebody for my position." So after fighting through a heavy tidal wave of imposter syndrome, I said, "Okay, I'll throw my hat in the ring." And here I am 3 years later. So now I'm the CEO of CU Soul is the name of the CUSO, and our tagline is "Solutions with Soul," and the crown jewel in that is our CU Safe Initiative, which is our domestic violence survivor program. So,
So,
then,
just to back up a second, maybe for the audience, maybe just a little bit on like the business model of a CUSO. Like, what really makes it
or,
unique or interesting? Because there's a lot of different areas, that it covers. We had a couple of weeks ago, we had April Klobus on from Rashida
oh,
Group,
sure.
and they obviously have this kind of very heavy slant towards fintech and fintech technologies. Talk a little bit about that, and kind of why was this like an interesting industry for you to work in?
Well, first off, I adore April Klobus and MSU, and we're connected now with a piece of what I'm doing in my QSO. So shout out to April and her whole team over there. They're wonderful. And that's a great example of what happens when you take a creative for marketing and make them a CEO. So there's a reason why they're so innovative. But yeah, so what is a QSO? Well, first off, how I just fell into it, honestly. I didn't mean to be part of this QSO world, but I've been in it now for, almost 17 years. But a QSO is an acronym, Credit Union Service Organization. The best way I can explain this, it's a side hustle for credit unions. So it's a for-profit arm of a not-for-profit or a nonprofit organization. So let me give you an example. Imagine either one credit union or a group of credit unions sitting around going, man, do these gas prices suck? We hate these gas prices. This is outrageous. Man, it'd be great if we had our own gas station and if we got a discount on the gas that we would pump at our gas station and we could make a profit from other folks that were coming to that gas station. Let's start that gas station. Okay. That's a QSO. Now, can you have a gas station as an actual QSO? No. There's certain, allowable purposes for a QSO. But in the long and short of it, a QSO is a way for a credit union to really have their cake and eat it too, because they can have a voice, have a vote, and put their fingerprints all over a solution or a series or a multitude of solutions by being an owner, but also they can profit from the upside of that. And a business that is deemed an allowable use, that could be marketing services, insurance is the biggest amount of QSOs that are out there. You just need $1 of investment to become a QSO. And so, I'm in what I consider the most exciting piece of the movement, because QSOs are where innovation breeds. QSOs are where really the most entrepreneurial spirits in the movement you live and thrive. And many of those folks come from credit unions and move into the QSO space. And I've got friends actually September 1st, my buddy Ted Coy at Valify just moved from Alabama FCU over to his QSO that he just created, brand new. Shout out to Ted. So that's in short, that's what a QSO really is designed to do. It's a for-profit arm, and the ones that do it right will create a QSO for products and services that they already use or need to use. And so then that way the credit union can have a product that's custom tailored to them. They can make a profit off the product that they're using anyway, while also utilizing the product. So it's a win, 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 win.
And a lot of times there's a collective element to this, that it's
Right.
like I'd heard some examples around, and this is maybe legacy aspect around mortgage origination, where some of the infrastructure was too big for a single credit union to invest in or create for their own use. So they were like, well, we'll create it for us, but then we're also kind of split some of the fixed costs of this with other credit unions that are, pseudo customers of theirs at some point. But more to
Yeah.
your gas station example. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A QSO could have one owner, like Michigan State. You mentioned April Clovis, perfect example. She has a fintech QSO factory. So this is where things are really getting exciting. It's almost like the movie Inception. It's like the first layer. MSU has a wholly owned QSO called Reseda Group. and that is a fintech investment holdings CUSO. Okay. So that's a CUSO that creates CUSOs with the funding that goes into it. But that's wholly owned by MSU. There's no other credit unions that are part of that ownership. MSU retains that 100%. Then you look at a CUSO like Servion Group. And shout out to Brad and his whole crew over there. Servion Group has, I mean, a bunch of owners, and there's owners, but then there's also users. So you don't have to be an owner of a CUSO in order to use the products and services. But credit unions that understand the spirit of CUSOs and the power of CUSOs are more likely to work with a CUSO because they know that that organization understands the movement and is run by, or at least the board itself managed by folks like them from other credit unions.
So let's talk about CU Soul then. What was kind of the impetus? What was the missing part that was, and I think there was 3 or 4 credit unions, right, that kinda
Yeah.
came together around that? Yeah. What
Mhm.
was the missing part? What were they looking to get out of effectively an investment in this kind of shared resource, shared service provider?
Well, it's a really fun story because, and this was like the big mystery when I first researched this CUSO, because, it's stated that, the first two owners that started it was two credit unions that came together at the impetus. And one was US Eagle Federal Credit Union in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union in Guam. And I'm going, how the heck did that happen? How did a credit union in Albuquerque hook up with I'm picturing like a GAC napkin, at the Marriott marquee or something. And, with the business plan of the CUSO written out, they must have met at a conference or something. But actually what it was the original CEO of this CUSO, CUSO, a gentleman named Walt Aegis. Shout out to Walt, great guy. He was the CEO at California Bear Credit Union. They were very progressive in many ways. They actually bought a car dealership. The credit union owned a car dealership. So imagine that. And he had created a indirect lending LOS system, loan operating system, when he had been at that credit union. Well, he retired. He somehow used the right combination of words to get that tech, get that software. So he owned the software, and he was doing strategic planning sessions for credit unions. And he just happened to be doing Coast 360s in Guam. And then he did US Eagles, or vice versa, whatever that order was. And both said, we are interested in starting a CUSO. We wanted to have a flair for tech. We want to serve the underserved credit unions. We want to have something that's unique and he said, well, I got a great idea. I've got this software and we could really put something together here. And so CU Soul originally was created to be a indirect lending LOS provider with aiming towards smaller credit unions. And when I came in, there was also a CISO compliance piece, and there was this, I hate to use the word fledgling, but a new startup piece of the CUSO, which was called CU Safe, which was and is a domestic violence survivor initiative. SAFE is an acronym. We love our acronyms, right? In the credit union movement, survivor advocacy for financial empowerment. And that was honestly the reason why I took the job. The indirect lending piece, I'm like, there's a lot of really great CUSOs that do indirect lending. I don't know if this is different or unique or a better price. I'm not sure. The CISO compliance piece, I thought, well, credit unions are going to kick this can down the road as long as they possibly can until they absolutely have to do it. So that might be a tough sell. But it was the CU Safe initiative that was really fascinating to me. And that really spoke to me, right in the heart. And I thought to myself, this is a really interesting opportunity. So there's two other owners, Rio Grande Credit Union in Albuquerque, and then GPO, Government Printing Office, FCU in DC. And GPO is 30 million in assets, and Coast 360 is around 550, 560. Rio Grande's about 510, 520, and then US Eagle is 1.4 billion. And so we've got this incredibly diverse board from asset standpoint, men, women, all ethnicities. I tell people all the time, I challenge folks to show me a more diverse CUSO board. Our board is really very, very diverse. And I love that. I love having the challenge um, of finding or creating products and services that are going to work for all credit unions, right? Of all asset sizes.
So this is a great story. I want to come back to the CU Safe piece because it sounds like there's a real story there, and that sounds interesting. But I want to make a point first and maybe pick on something. I mean, the level of non-obvious innovation, right? That had to take place for this to happen. It reminds me of there's a professor at NYU named Paul Romer, uh, Nobel laureate in
Mhm.
economics, and he has this rather wordy, complicated theory around how innovation happens. But his short form version of it is, what thriving industries need is more recipes and less cooking.
Mm,
And kind of what he means by that is there's a whole lot of growth and innovation and, just generally value additive newness that comes from combining things that have not been combined before, have not been put together before. So this idea of a $60 million credit union, two $500 million credit unions, $1.5 billion credit union that normally would have, from a business standpoint, probably nothing to do with each other, let alone being between Arizona and Guam, right?
mhm.
Just the non-obvious piece of that they were able to come together and have this common tie around a rather eclectic group of assets, some obvious, some not.
Mhm.
That is, if nothing else, take away from this, right? You are not in an industry that is dead. There is no opportunities for innovation to come from this, right? There is plenty of opportunities to put stuff together. And this story, which what's the age of CU Soul? Like, how old is the organization at this point?
2018 was when it was
Okay,
formed.
right.
Yeah.
So a baby, right? When you kind
Mm.
of start thinking about a lot of these organizations, this is all like brand new. This is
Right.
not stuff that's been baked in for decades. So that
No.
that that is interesting. Let's just talk about that a little bit more. Like, what are some of your ideas around, either from your own experience of what you see, or frameworks you've used for how to think about doing something like this, or at least kind of breathing this innovation or this idea of, let's do something that's relevant and differentiated for our customers. Like, how do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, so I was, it's painful for me to use the word was instead of is, but I was a ice hockey goalie for many, many years. And so you hear, that famous Wayne Gretzky, quote, go to where the puck is going to go, don't go to where the puck is. And that's really what is needed in the CUSO space, in the CUSO movement. Which was really when I came in, I realized that very quickly we needed to shake up the snow globe a little bit because some of the things weren't working based on what had been built, what things actually were, and no disrespect to to Walt or anybody, but at the end of the day, it's like, look, if we're gonna do something, the point of a QSO is to fulfill a need really that's not already being, heavily fulfilled. So move to space. Okay. What is needed, maybe not necessarily for right this second, but what's going to be needed, right down the road. And so looking at a combination of, okay, what are we already doing that we need to improve upon? And then what is coming down the road that we're going to need some help with ultimately? I think that was our strategy as we realized we had to blow a few things up and start from scratch on a few things. So for me, it was, let's play to our strengths. let's play to our strengths. Well, what are our strengths? Well, I have my insurance licenses. Over 60% of the CUSOs that are in America are insurance agencies or insurance resellers. Why? Because we need insurance already. So rather than paying somebody else, that middleman commission, why not create an entity where we can make that middleman commission while also having better control of the products and services and the relationships with the carriers. And so we formed one suite called Q Control. And it was all about, the C certified program I mentioned and, some other, blanket CPI programs. So I said, okay, let's start there. That's easy. That's, I can do that with my eyes closed. So let's get a few things in that really kind of fit that mold, since we've got some assets like my insurance licenses that are already in there, number one. Number two, let's look at what the market really needs. And, I had just seen this pendulum of liquidity, right? Back and forth. And it's only perfect for 1 second. And then it's back to the other side. Oh, that's great. And then it's back over to the other side again. So it's like, how can we prove the power of the aggregative power of a QSO in a space where that pendulum is constantly flowing? How can we work together as a group? And so then we formed Quilt, credit union integrated lending track, which was, hey, I have a credit union owner in Guam that can only serve the island of Guam. And not just because that's what their current field of membership is, but how do you work with members that are 14 hours? If they're East Coast, it's 14 hours. I mean, my board meetings are at 5:30 at night because it's 9:30 in the morning in the future in Guam. Sounds like a junior high math problem. A credit union CEO leave Guam traveling at 600 miles an hour. What time and date is it when they land in Vegas? So, for us, we said, hey, okay, so they're killing it on autos. They're almost out of liquidity. They're doing so well on the island of Guam. So they've got a problem. And so what if we can do an originate to distribute model where they can turn just to our other owners, just to the team, the inside, I call it the owner's lounge, and say, hey, I've got 2 million a month in indirect autos right now. I would love to be able to offload 90% of that, still retain the membership and still retain, the servicing on that. But if somebody else could take the 90% and give me that money back so I can re-leverage it out into my community on the island of Guam, that would be wonderful. And so that's essentially what the Quilt model is it's a loan originate. One of the owners originates loans, turns around and says, I would like to offload some of it. And then the other owners in the lounge that are owners look at it first, take the bites that they want. And then whatever's left over, we have another CUSO that we partner with that moves that out to about 1,500 credit units. So that was another piece we did, but really the crown jewel is the CU Safe initiative. And that was the piece that I looked at and I said, guys, no one else in this entire space is really tackling this very difficult conversation around domestic violence and the economic.
Yeah, because there's no obvious answer here that says I've got a great idea. Financial product plus domestic violence. A space that is not even probably on the radar is seen as like, hey, there's a need or there's an opportunity here that can be solved through the credit union model, the financial services model. What
For sure.
what was the impetus? Like, how did this get started?
Yeah. So the impetus, it's a beautiful story. So the impetus is a board member of US Eagle Federal Credit Union, a woman named Pamela Herndon, who is a social justice attorney. She's a state legislator in New Mexico, and she serves on the board of US Eagle. She and her office is actually in the statewide domestic violence resource center building, amongst other offices. And she was working with case after case after case where domestic violence was highly prevalent. And she was noticing a pattern around financial abuse. Financial abuse is prevalent in almost 100%, 98% of the time. if somebody is a victim or a survivor of domestic violence, financial abuse was there. And what is that? What's financial abuse? If your credit is purposefully damaged by your abuser, um, as a way of control, right? Because if your credit's tanked, and it's very easy to tank somebody's credit, incredibly easy. So, if the credit has been damaged or destroyed, what can't you do? Well, you can't get a loan. Everybody knows that you can't get a loan. But what else can't you do? Can you get an apartment? Not if they pull credit. Can you get a job? In a lot of cases, no, because they also pull your credit when especially if you're in the financial industry, ironically, right? Um, can you get auto insurance? Nope, can't get that either. So there's so many things that are dependent upon that credit score that if you're an abuser, all you have to do is tank the credit, and now they can't leave, right? Because they can't move on with their life. So that's number one. But then number two, just the control of the money overall and the need for a separation of the funds. And so when Pamela knew that or recognized it, she went back to the CEO of US Eagle, Marcia Majors, and said, we there are strings of control here that we can cut, with our credit union. If we can help them with a low fee, no fee, account. And if we can provide them with a no credit, bad credit, um, loan, in order to get them back on, or a credit building loan, we can help them with financial wellness and budgeting and credit healing and all of this stuff. That's our superpowers. That's what we can do with the credit union space. And so she connected the local domestic violence resource center in Albuquerque. Shout out to that crew. And really, CU Safe was born. And so CU Safe really is um, it's a tech stack that connects survivors to resource centers in their local market, and then from the resource center over to the credit union. And the credit union can help snip those threads of control around the financial abuse. Now, a lot of people go, okay, this just sounds like charity work. But really, when you're talking about how do we do well while doing good as a credit union space, you think of, well, what's the point? What's the why of the credit union movement? Why did the credit union movement even start? Well, in 1908, it started because a mostly women and children immigrant population from Quebec was working in the textile mills in Manchester, New Hampshire. And they were unbanked. They didn't speak the language. They were heavily discriminated against. And a gentleman who was connected to St. Mary's or St. Marie, depending on how you pronounce it, Catholic Church said, we need to create something so that these folks have a place to just put their money where it's not underneath their mattress. And that became the first credit union in America. So credit unions were formed to serve the underserved, to bank the unbanked. And what came from that was lifelong loyalty, because they were willing to stick their neck out and help somebody when nobody else would, right? That was the whole point of the movement, the credit union space. And so today, I think one of the challenges we have as credit unions is that the bigger we get, the further we get from the why and from the purpose. And so this is a great way for credit unions and community banks, whoever out there. This is such a huge problem that we have in this country. There's plenty of help that's needed. Um, the loyalty that comes out of helping somebody in a situation like this and giving them that start when nobody else will is lifelong. We've seen it. And what comes out of loyalty? Liquidity. That's what comes out of loyalty. If you can help somebody today, not only are they never going to leave you, they're going to back with you for their whole life. They're going to bring their whole family. They're going to tell everybody. We've had survivors say they saved my life. If it wasn't for them, I wouldn't be here today. That is lifelong loyalty. It's the long way around the barn. We're counting the grains of sand on the beach, but it makes a beach if you do it that way. And so that's the big message behind. That's the doing well piece, is that if you help folks like this, and that's just one example. It could be, could be immigrants that are trying to naturalize, that are trying to do things the right way, but it costs $10,000 to do that. And they don't have $10,000. It could be, there's all kinds of different folks. It could be veterans coming back from the war that are now homeless, that just need a leg up. Whatever the need is, the common thread is they're unbanked or underbanked. Nobody is giving them a chance, and credit unions really were designed to be that chance for folks, and that is what has grown this industry tremendously. 140 million members now strong in the United States, and we gotta continue down that path. We can't stray away from that. And so the CU Safe initiative, I believe, helps credit unions get back to their roots and prove out with a model that we've now worked out that loyalty equates to liquidity.
GT, I mean, that's a great story. And, one of those ones that really gets into the element of where the industry plays with purpose and mission first in what
Correct.
they're doing. And I'm sure for a lot of the folks at CU Soul, the reason you come to work every day, right, is to kind of work around something like that. Um, Thank you very much for sharing. This was really interesting, and I'm sure you're lots of questions on next steps and everything from people. If they're interested, where can they go to find more about you, about CU Soul, particularly about the CU Safe program?
Yeah, see, so we've separated them out simply because people get confused between CU Soul and CU Safe and which one is it. So CU Safe being our domestic violence survivor initiative, they can go to cusafe.care for more information there. On the CUSO, the parent CUSO, CU Soul, then go to cusoul.org to find out some more information. Of course, there's a section on CU Safe there as well. And you can check out all the work that we do, and we'd love to talk with anybody that's interested in learning more.
Well, that's great, and we'll put links to both of those in the show notes. JT, thanks again for sharing. Thanks again for being here and kind of really the contributions that you make to the industry.
Thanks, Rich.